Let's talk about some three-dimensional figures and how to draw them in the different types of views. So a three-dimensional figure, otherwise known as solids, can be made up of flat or curved surfaces. Each flat surface is called a face. An edge is the segment that is the intersection of two faces. And the vertex is the point that is the intersection of three or more faces. Here are the different types of solids we will be talking about. You have your prisms, which contains two parallel bases. You have a cylinder, which also has two parallel bases that are only circles. You have your pyramid, which has one base, and then you have your cone, which has one base but is a circle. A cube is a prism with 6 square faces. Other prisms are named for the shape of their base. So you see some examples here. This is your triangular prism. The triangles are the bases. This is a pentagonal pyramid. There's one base, which is in the shape of a pentagon. So you name solids based on their bases and what shape they are. So take a minute and classify this figure. Name the vertices, edges, and bases. Pause the video and write down your answers. What you should have gotten is that this is a cube. There are lots of vertices. Notice they are points, so we name them as a point. The edges are segments, so make sure you are naming them as a segment. You include 2 vertices and put that line up above it, or the segment up above it. And then you have your bases. Actually, that should be faces. And notice how the faces are named. They are named as a square or as a quadrilateral. There are 4 vertices in each name. A net is a 2-dimensional representation of a 3-dimensional figure. It's the diagram of the surfaces of that figure that can be folded to form it. So to identify a 3-dimensional figure from a net, you got to look at the number of faces and the shape of each one. For instance, this one has one circular face and then a semicircular face, which means this is our cone because there's only one circular base, so that rules out a cylinder. And this is the sloping face of that cone. A cross-section is the intersection of a 3-dimensional figure and a plane. So you notice here with this cone, this plane is intersecting at that top vertex, so the cross-section of this cone is just a point. The cross-section of this pentagonal pyramid is a pentagon because the plane is parallel to the base. So whenever the plane is intersecting the solid parallel to its base, that cross-section will be whatever shape the base is. So I want you to look at this question and I want you to come up with your answer on how you could slice the cheese of an equilateral triangle to prism to make an equilateral triangle. So make sure you have this ready to show me in class. There are different ways to look at a 3-dimensional object. One is the orthographic drawing. This shows the 6 different views of that object. You have the top and the bottom, the front and the back, and the left and the right sides. So here in this rectangular pyramid, the top would look like a rectangle with the edges showing. The back is a triangle, which should be the same as the front. The left and right sides should also be the same because they are parallel to, not parallel, but across from each other. And then the bottom, you don't see the top or the edges on the top, so it is just a rectangle. We have our cubes that we can put together to create a figure. So if we were to draw the orthographic views of this figure here, let's look at the top. Well, we would see this one, this one, this one, and this one. So when we were to draw that representation, this is what we would see on the top. Now from the bottom, we would end up seeing the same thing. Will this always happen? No. So make sure you are actually physically trying to visualize what it would look like. What I want you to do is to draw the front and back, the left and right views, and have this ready for class. You also have the isometric drawing. This is a way to show three sides of a figure from the corner view. So if you look at this rectangular prism here on this isometric dot paper, we see the top, the front, and the right side. My advice is to start with a corner and draw them from there. We could also look at this view here. To draw the isometric view, you got to have the dot paper. We will practice this in class. But in order to have a little hint of where to start with this top face here on this cube. Notice that is this piece right here. From there you can draw this face, which is right here, and then this face, which is over here. From there you just keep taking the cubes and drawing them as you would see them. Even though they are facing different directions, you have to remember this isometric view is looking at it from this corner to where we can see the top, this corner side, and the front over here. So please remember to have these questions ready in class on Wednesday or Thursday. Also remember that you can go back and do the Chapter 9 review and turn it in by Friday to help with your daily grade for Chapter 9. Your bell ringer notebooks can also be corrected and finished and turned in before the next random check. Remember, since you don't know when it's going to be, get it done as soon as possible. And as always, if you have any questions, write them down, put them on the parking lot, or come into tutorials and ask for help. I'll see you in class.